Hi, YouTube. I'm just getting my TikTok set up. That's where my audience is. And my big audience. And anyone who turns up on YouTube, you guys usually come over from TikTok. So that's why you'll only see the side of my face here. Okay. Oops. Hello. What is that? I haven't seen that before. I'm just looking at your emojis. Raven, you've been here before. Ducky, I don't remember Ducky. Maribel V, I think you've been here before. Anyway, while we're waiting for everyone to turn up, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. We've actually got a rainy day, which I don't mind after a whole bunch of hot sun because it cleans the streets. I live downtown, and I won't go into detail, but the streets can get pretty gnarly. So I'm quite happy to have a day of rain. And my daughter's getting married outdoors on Saturday. It's supposed to be sunny, so I'm happy about that. Boone, North Carolina. Hello, Boone. What is that? Is that an olive? Sorry, I don't see that well. Like, I can't pick up detail. I think it's an olive. I was going to say avocado, but it looks like it's got the red on the end there. Is that an olive? I'm curious. Okay. I'm tempted. Just a sec. I'm going to put my glasses on. Oh, it is an olive. Okay. I only use my glasses for reading because I had LASIK surgery, and they're really only good for reading now. If that, I don't even need them for that really. But olives. So I was right. So I'm not that blind. Ontario. Hi, Ontario. Sweden. Hi, Sweden. So I'm just asking people where they're from while we're waiting for people to turn up. I usually wait till I get maybe 100 people in here. I don't know. The biggest number I ever had in a live, and I just started doing lives about a year ago. I do them every day. And I was new to lives, and it's intimidating because you got to read, and then you're thinking, how boring is this? I'm just sitting here reading. And anyway, I got 26,000 viewers turn up in one session. Like at one time, there was 26,000 people watching my live. I almost kind of wished I was wearing a diaper. It was very intimidating because I just didn't expect that to happen. But it's never happened since. But that was, I think, someone big had shared it. I think that's what happened. They never shared it again. So obviously they weren't that impressed. Oh, this is funny. It's so funny. I fall asleep to watching your lives. That's because I'm so soothing, right? Not because I'm boring. Trinidad and Tobago. Did I say that right? I know Trinidad, but Tobago. So I've never heard of that before. Okay. Oops, sorry. I listen to a lot of comedians when I'm at the gym. Like if I'm, I listen to calming music, like really hyped up music. I went through a whole Eminem stage. But this morning I was listening to comedians. I've got a new favorite comedian. I like Brian Regan for years, but I've seen all this stuff now. So when we saw him live this year, now I like Greg Warren. He's got 3 really good specials on YouTube. I'd never even heard of him before, but I just picked up on it. So I was listening to that. I just like to pass that along because he's really funny. Spain. Hi, Spain. You're just so awesome. Thanks so much for that. Okay, so how many people? I've got about 80 people here, so we'll get going. Anyway, if you look on my link above, you'll see everything I've got to offer you, aside from these lives and videos. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too, and it starts at the age of 3. So it teaches you how to give respect to get it. That's why you're on it. You got to be accountable. Your kids are not listening to you nearly as much as they're watching you. When they're toddlers, they're not listening at all. But as they get older, they listen more. Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Phoenix. I'll check him out. Greg Warren. Yeah, he's so funny. He did a whole thing. He just seems like a nice guy, and he's very funny. New Zealand. We used to ski in New Zealand, down in Queenstown. Beautiful down there. That was the first time my kids had ever seen snow because we lived in Australia for like 20 years. So my kids had never seen snow. When we get out of the bus at the top of the mountain, there's no snow down in the city in New Zealand, in Queenstown. You have to get on a bus, and they charter you all up to the top of the mountain, and there's the snow. My kids had never seen snow. They get out of the bus, and they start playing in the snow, the filthy brown parking lot snow. About 10 feet away is white, pristine snow. But nope, they played in the filthy brown snow. It was just funny. And then when we first moved to Canada, they saw frost. They'd never seen frost before because we lived in the tropics, right? They'd never seen frost before, and they went out there to play in the frost. How embarrassing. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, the brown snow. At least they didn't try and eat it. Okay. Okay, I need the age, by the way. I would have answered that, but I don't know the age. Makes a big difference in my answer. Unless you use the word toddler, that's usually pretty, or teenager, it's self-explanatory. Or the yellow snow, that's even worse, yeah. I was going to tell you a funny story about that, but no, it's too rude. When I was a kid, something happened. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Okay, parenting questions. I'll just wait for those to come in. Six and 5 years old. So what was your question? I got to go back now just a sec. Okay. What with that I learned son to not hit anybody but kid my brother learned to hit my son confused. Okay. Just a sec. So I'm assuming that maybe English is your second language, right? So I'll try and decipher this. What with that I learned son to not hit anybody but my kid brother learned to hit my kid brother. My son confused. I can't quite figure that out because the kids are 6 and 5 and you're talking about your brother. So that's what I don't understand that part of it. So sorry about that. How do you encourage sharing for toddlers? I don't. They don't understand sharing. How can a toddler possibly comprehend there's someone else in the world who actually wants what they want and deserves to get it? You're trying to reason with them. You can't reason with them. There's nothing wrong with a toddler. It's your expectations and understanding of them that's the issue here. They can't really learn to share. If they're 2 years old, they can't really learn to share. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. Are you really going to understand the concept of sharing? Like, yeah, it's just too big of an ask. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of got that. You're trying to help this person. You said, I think she's asking how to teach your son how not to hit when her brother is teaching him to hit. So that's not your son's fault. That's your brother's fault. And I don't teach that. I don't teach how to raise your brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I teach parent-child relationships. I don't teach adult sibling relationships. So yeah, that's sort of what I was thinking was happening, but I can't answer that. I can't tell you how to handle your adult brother. Well, how do I stop getting mad at my 3-year-old? What's he doing? Be specific. What's he doing, Kayla? Just give me an example of something that drives you nuts and I'll tell you what to do. My 4-year-old is acting like a toddler. I don't know what's going on there. Okay. Okay, Melissa. How would you handle another toddler wanting a toy when a different toddler is playing with it? So this is the sharing question. The way I managed that is I just made sure they all had equal toys and I was right there. If they went to grab something, I'd say no. And I made sure that they had equal toys. I didn't have one toy that I expected them to take turns with. Does that make sense? So yeah, I was managing that. You got to set your toddler up for success. Your expectations of them are often really too high. Lower them. It's not that they're not smart, they're just not experienced yet. They have no context of the world yet. You expect them to be sane, but they have no sanity yet. They haven't developed sense. They're just brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in there. So you manage it. You manage that. I don't understand this. Do you think the mantra "firm and kind" to your kids work? I never really used that. I was very much a goofy mother. I played with my kids. We were best friends. But if they ever did anything that was naughty, I was very quick to say, I didn't like that. Here's the consequence. Very quick. I was always mom first. So is that firm and kind? I was very much friends with my kids. I was very goofy and played with them all the time. But yeah, if they ever stepped out of line, I was like that, right on it, fast. Like I never let anything go. But I was very quiet. I'd say, didn't like that. Here's what's going to happen. Do you understand? They go, oh, okay. Because they liked fun mom. I use my humor as leverage. They like fun mom. And when I work with kids, they like funny or fun Lisa. So I use that as leverage. It disappeared like in a shot if they did something I didn't like. And it was very quick. I'd say, didn't like that. What do you think we should do about that? It was kind of like that. It was very calm. That's why I call it calm leadership. It's when you're disciplining is when you're calm. The rest of the time I was insane. So, okay, what about in a daycare setting? Oh, I don't teach daycare. So I don't teach, like a lot of people ask me, well, what about classroom setting? A lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists, but I don't know their job. I couldn't possibly do their job. But a lot of daycare workers and such and teachers and say that they use some of my methods. They're not all transferable because one is an institution and parenting is complete. It's the most personal thing you'll ever do because they're a reflection of you, right? They're your children. So it's very personal. They're very, very different energy and dynamic in parenting and any other role. It's very different. The closest role I've ever thought of is a really good sports coach. That's the closest role to what I consider my parenting to be is leadership and mentorship. And a sports coach is they're fun, but they have rules. They know how to enforce them. The kids love them. They want to please them. They would be embarrassed to act out with a coach they loved. That's the way I see parenting. I was very fun, but I had rules. And if they didn't follow them, I was like all over it. Oh, I didn't like that. What do you think we should do about that? And they were like, oh, sorry, Mom. Oh, well, I'm assuming it's a little one. I try to be stern, but my son will laugh when I use my stern voice. Any advice? They're not about words, they're about actions. Okay? And when they're 3, it's consequences, which is an action too, really. So under the age of 3, that's when they're toddlers. It's actions, consistent corrective actions, because toddlers do not learn through words. They're not listening to you, they're watching you. So it's these mini therapy sessions discussing and using a stern voice and all. It just doesn't work. It's about actions. So consistent corrective actions. When they do something you don't like, take action. Take something away, remove them from the fun, remove the fun from them, whatever. They will eventually learn. They don't learn the first time because they learn through repetition. If they're 3 years old and over, these mini therapy sessions are just ridiculous. You just take action. It would be like a cop pulling you over. And let's say you sped every single day and all he ever did was give you a lecture. Are you going to stop speeding? I wouldn't. I'd keep speeding. I'm never going to get a ticket. Why wouldn't I? I'm never going to speed too much. But you know what I'm saying. It's like there's got to be a consequence there. So yeah, it's actions. Take action. They're not listening. I know it's trendy right now to just have these mini therapy sessions. They're for you. They're not for your children. Like if my kids had done something I didn't like, I wouldn't have gone on about it. I don't like to drag things out. To me, discipline is fast. They did something I didn't like. I'd say, okay, you didn't put your dirty clothes in the hamper this morning, so now I want you to put my laundry away tonight or whatever. And that would have been the end of it. But I wouldn't have said, now you know you should have put it in the hamper. It's berating. It's almost mean and condescending and patronizing and bullying. I don't like it. I just don't like it. They know. If parents like to go on about it. Could you imagine if you had a boss? Like if you made a mistake, he'd say, okay, we'll fix it. He wouldn't put you in timeout or berate you about what you did wrong. And he'd just say, yeah, okay, now you've learned, right? Okay, so fix it. It's like that. Yeah, also this stern voice. I just want to go on about this a little bit more. The stern voice. I'd probably laugh at you too if you never followed it up with action. I'm like, are you kidding me? Why would I listen to you? It's like if that's all you ever have is a stern voice, I wouldn't listen to you either. Like where's the consequences? Where's the actions? I'm finding my inner child when I say this, but I'm 62. I've got a lot of that in me still. Yeah. If they're hitting during a tantrum, I've got a course for that. It's called Tantrum Busting, and it's in the link above there. It's in one. I have like a bunch of little mini toddler courses. But if they're hitting outside of a tantrum, just because they are, that's the toddlers who hit, etc. They're usually doing that to get their own way, or just because they're bullying. It's just they're learning how to do this. So The two separate courses. If you're hitting during a tantrum, that's the tantrum busting one. 4-year-old acting out different after a new baby. Okay, think of it this way. Let's say, let's say you're a woman and your husband brings home another wife. How would you feel? What if you've been the only wife for the last 10 years and all of a sudden he brings home another wife? It's like that with kids. Well, not that they care about the wife, but you get what I'm saying? All of a sudden there's someone else in their role. Some of them adjust, they don't care about it. It just depends on their personality type. But yeah, think about it that way. It's a big adjustment. How can a 4-year-old possibly understand how much their life is going to change with that newborn? So it's your expectations of them that are out of whack. I don't blame them for going through stuff because that's a big adjustment. Well, you're not going to like my answer at all. What are your views about toddlers and picky eating? Toddler or throws tantrums when healthy food is offered. That's all my kids ever got, so they didn't know any different. If you're feeding them sugar and then you try and feed them broccoli, good luck with that. Like my kids had a choice. You can either have broccoli or cauliflower. I didn't offer them, toddlers didn't get junk food. So yeah, I don't blame them. If they're like salt and sugar are like addictive. So if you're giving them highly salty snacks or sugary snacks and then you try and feed them carrots, I mean, come on. You get what I'm saying with this, right? What do you do about mimicking? That's attitude. I kind of ignore that. That means that it's a tell. It means that they don't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. Don't expect respect for not earning it. You got to work for that. You got to earn that. I didn't expect it to be handed me on a silver platter. I worked my butt off to get that. And that's what it takes. You got to work for it, but it's worth it. Anything worthwhile is going to be hard work, right? Unless you just win lotto or something, I guess, but that's not what parenting's about. Yeah, 17-month-old having tantrums. I've got a whole course on that if you're interested. It goes into great detail. I've also got tons and tons of videos. You completely ignore tantrums. If they get violent, they hurt themselves, hurt someone else, or damage property, you just restrain them until they start to calm down. You literally just restrain. You don't look at them or talk to them, though. Any attention is tantrum food, but you have to restrain them from being violent. If you talk to a kid when he's having a tantrum, you're interrupting their brain process, their development process. They're learning how to control themselves. If you interrupt it, you are making the tantrums last longer, be more intense, be more frequent, because you're interrupting their brain pattern. Their brains are learning, wait, this ain't working. They only do tantrums hoping they'll work. And when they learn that they're never going to work, they just stop having them. So every time you interfere, they're working. Attention is tantrum food. How did you develop your parenting? Are you more lenient with grandkids if you have them? I don't have I've got grandkids coming now, and they're not my kids. I don't teach grandparenting. I teach parenting. So that's a different role. It's none of my business how my kids raise their kids. I'll just sit back and watch the show. But I always say, when you drop them off with grandma's rules. And kids learn that. Like they learn how to be different with everybody, right? So we're all different. But my parenting I developed, I would say, I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. Like, who does that? That's weird. Anyway, so I was always obsessed with figuring kids out and getting close to them. I just found them fascinating. I always thought they're the best of us because they're not messed up by life. Kind of learning. You learn so much about life and yourself when you get good at reading kids and figuring them out. Anyway, so yeah, I just volunteered for years and years with kids in hospitals and all sorts of disabilities and everything. And then I had my own kids. And then I mentored troubled teens before my kids were teenagers. So my son used to say, we didn't stand a chance. Mom knew what she was doing. So, but yeah, I just was always volunteering with kids, always. And then the troubled teenagers said, you've got to teach what you do, Lisa. I do think I was just kind of born to do this, because what 11-year-old is volunteering in daycare centers? Like I look back at that and I think, why would I even do that? Like I just thought that was weird. When I look back at that, that's weird. And I was the in-demand babysitter. I was really good with the kids who were trouble. I was good at getting respect and being fun. They wanted to be around me. I was fun, but also I knew how to toe the line. I knew how to, get them to. I remember the first time I ever babysat, I was 11 years old and the kids were about 5 and 3. And it was just like it was like around dinner time. It wasn't late because I was only 11. It was nearby in the neighborhood. So, and in that back in the day, we all knew everybody. So everybody knew, oh, Lisa's babysitting this family tonight. So it's just a different safety thing. Anyway, and the parents said, look, we've got this one kid. He's just not going to eat dinner. He's really difficult. He had some learning disabilities and he was just a real challenge. So they said he won't eat dinner. He might throw his food. He might do this. They came home and they said, well, sorry about that. How was he? And I said, yeah, he was great. He ate dinner and even helped me clean up. And I never knew how to explain how I knew how to do that. I just instinctively kind of figured out. I was watching them and I figured it out. He just needed leadership with no anger, none. No anger. If you have anger when you're doing this, it doesn't work. I totally see the troubled teen experience, fair and respected. Yeah. I would say the troubled teens, some of them were violent. They taught me more about myself and about life than probably anyone ever did. Because they're so raw, they're so damaged, they're just so, everything that we feel is just heightened when you've been abused, you're messed up, and it's so heightened. And I thought my only goal with kids was always to make them feel good about themselves. And if I was the source of that, I had a lot of power. You got to be careful with that too, because they look up to you, and you look at them the wrong way, you could mess them up. I mean, when they look up to you that much, and you're the source of their high self-esteem and them liking themselves, you gotta be careful with that. That's a lot of power. That I really respected that. I was very careful not to look at them the wrong way, because it could just throw them right off the deep end. That's how sensitive they were. But I still had to address when I didn't like something. I won't go into it. That comes up a lot in coaching if I'm working with people with teenagers. I explain that, but not here. It's no point. Okay. 3-year-old seems zoned out a lot, hard to get his attention. Is this a thing at that age? Not necessarily. If you're a follower and you're the pleaser parent, potentially. Otherwise, if you set yourself up as a leader and you learn how to get their attention and you still like that, then you might want to check into it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or anything, but he might just be tuning you out because he doesn't respect you. Oh God, you're going to hate my answer. Can a 2-year-old choose where to sleep in the house? Let him do that to avoid a tantrums? Never avoid a tantrum. Never. The reason is, if you're afraid of how they're going to react, they are the leader, guaranteed. You want to sleep here? You want to sleep? If he's only 2 now, God, wait till he's 12 years old. You're going to be in trouble. So yeah, if you're just so afraid of his reaction that he knows it, he's in charge. Okay. Long tantrums, screaming, throwing, hitting. I don't know how old she is. Plus, you don't help them stop. You just let them, you got to let their brain process from the start to the middle to the end. They have to do that on their own. It's an internal process. Don't interrupt that. If you interrupt it, it's going to take them longer to learn how to stop having tantrums. It's self-taught, but they're watching you. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. And if you ignore it, they learn, hey, this ain't working. I may as well stop doing it. And they just stop doing it. I'm going to read this out because I feel bad for you. Hi, I don't have any children. Just wanted to say that I'm alone in a foreign country and I'm so lonely. Hey, you're on here. No need. I'm sitting here alone. There's no point in being lonely when you're in a chat with people. Lots of people. We always think everyone's got it better than us. I'm old now. I get it. They don't. Some people might, but my mom used to say she was the most positive person I ever met in my whole life. She was brilliant at making lemonade out of lemons. She always saw the positive in everything. My dad died when he was 53. I was 14 years old. And when we got the call, he died of cancer. He was in the hospital. We knew he was dying. Anyway, we got the call. This was my mom. This absolutely encapsulates my mother. She had a very tough life, but she learned how to always be positive. Dad died. We both broke down and cried for like 5 minutes. And then she gathered herself because she was going to have to make phone calls and that, right, to tell people. And then she said to me after we cried for like 5 minutes, she said, weren't we lucky to have him for all that time? That was my mother. And then all of her closest friends came over that night, all the people that, she was closest to came over, and they just told funny stories all night and had a great time. Like, wow, it's attitude. And if you're lonely, you're not the only one. My mother, oh my God, she was brilliant at being cheery, positive. It was almost to a fault. I remember when she said that to me, I thought, what the heck's wrong with you? He just died. But yeah, that was her go-to. So I learned a lot from my mother. Yeah, we can all learn to be positive. I know what I was going to say. My mom used to say to me, she goes, everything's temporary, the good and the bad. So enjoy the good because the bad's right around the corner. Just survive the bad because the good's right around the corner. So she always said that. Um, Brilliant. But she was very good at making her own fun. Like she never just sat around waiting for good things to happen to her. She was extremely social. She got out there. She was always cooking up a game. She loved playing cards, bridge and poker and all that. She just loved playing cards. And so she was always cooking up a game, my dad used to call it. Actually, when they first got married, this was my mom. It encapsulated my mom. When they first got married, he said, well, Lil, he says, I don't want to give up my fishing. He used to build boats, sailboats, and go out fishing, and he loved fishing with his friends. And Mom said, fine, I don't want you to stop fishing. She's not that type of, domineering type woman at all. And so he said, okay, great, you go out fishing. Well, every time he'd go out fishing, she'd be home cooking up a game, cooking up a social night. So and then he ended up not hardly ever going fishing because he didn't want to miss out on any of the social. Mom had all this social, she had tons of friends and just the most positive person. She used to say, life is what you make it, sweetie. Wow, great attitude. I've developed a lot of that now. When she died, I felt like I developed a lot of it. I get it. But before that, I don't know why. I just didn't really clue in. After she died, it sort of clicked in more because I'm older too, right? Great attitude, phenomenal attitude. Everyone loved her. She was funny. Okay. Got out of a toxic relationship. Do you think I'll ever find someone better again? I'm not a psychic, so I don't know. Well, this is not something I can really help you with, but it comes up a lot in coaching when I'm talking to parents. Coaching is done on Zoom. And so you said, how to get rid of the guilt that I feel when I let my 2-year-old cry. He wants everything his way or something. Well, I can't help you with the guilt. All I can say is once you're a lead, like I had no guilt whatsoever, none, because I knew I was doing. I knew what I was doing. So I knew I was a very fun mom, and I dealt with the negative very quickly, got it over with, the discipline, and then they were kind of self-disciplining right through the years. So right through the teen years and everything. So yeah, the guilt is when you're not sure of what you're doing. You're not getting the results you want. Once you start getting the results and you got a great relationship with your kids, the guilt goes away. I have a course on how to get respect if you're interested, but there's no guilt when everyone's happy. And you know what I mean? There is no guilt. So work on your leadership skills. It's never about the kids. It's about you. Their behavior is a direct result of your parenting, which is good because you can take the blame for when they're bad, but then you get to take the credit when they're good, right? So take the responsibility. Be accountable for your kids' behavior. Their behavior is really 100% a direct result of your parenting. When they're teenagers, they can start to get more outside influences, but they still really care what you think, and they will come to you if they're not sure about something. Yeah. Well, okay. Brianna Frost, what to do when a 7-year-old kid is fighting and running away and kicking during a tantrum? That's at 7 years old. That behavior is it just says you're not a leader. So work on your leadership skills. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing parents. We're teaching parents here. So it's not about the kids. It's about you. That's just a reflection of your parenting. You got to work on that. Work on your leadership skills because that just wouldn't happen. They shouldn't still be having tantrums at 7. It doesn't mean that they don't get anger, but they've learned how to process it. That's why you never interrupt a tantrum. You've been interrupting tantrums, I'm assuming. That's why they haven't worked themselves out yet. If you're interrupting and giving any attention to a tantrum, talking to them, looking at them during a tantrum, you're interrupting the process. That's why they still have them. So yeah, they shouldn't be having tantrums past 3.5, 4 years old because their brains are developed enough to learn this ain't working anymore. I'm not going to do it. But if you've been interrupting a tantrum, it'll still keep happening. There's a lot of talk about these self-regulating their tantrums and all this garbage. You can't self-regulate. Think about it. You can't regulate someone else's brain. They learn to do it. It's self-regulation. Help them self-regulate. You can't. How on earth can someone self-regulate? Doesn't make any sense at all. You just allow them to learn on their own. They will. Make sure that tantrums never work. They never get them any attention. They will lean away from them and lean toward what does work, which is the polite kid works. The tantrum doesn't work. They just learn this. Yeah, if they're still having tantrums at 7, I'm assuming you interrupted them, that they've been working. How long should a tantrum last for a toddler? Could be 2 minutes, could be 2 hours. They can go for a very long period. Depends on if they've got a history of you interrupting them. By 2, they're starting to figure out that they just start to calm down quicker because you're ignoring it. If you're giving it attention, they can go on forever, like for a very long time. Not forever, but for a very long time. But there is no set thing. Ignore your handle. How can I? Now that you said that, I probably just thought it was you pointing. I wouldn't even have picked up on that. My 1-year-old keeps hitting me, and when I grab his hands and tell him no, he gets more excited and hits again. Yeah, you just say no, and then you walk away. Remove yourself. Then you say he hits me again. I would just keep holding him then. Say no and hold his hand for a little bit. They'll eventually learn. He's only 1 though. Okay, I use diversion with little ones. Like I correct the behavior. I say no, and then I might say, oh, look at that. You don't divert with anything too exciting, but I might just start reading a book or something. But yeah, and then every time they hit, I just grab their hands. It's about actions, consistent corrective actions with little ones. But it's still a baby. I think they're still babies till they're about 16 months old. That's when I kind of see them going into more toddlers. Toddlers are under 3, 16 months to under 3, in my view. How do you feel about sleepovers for kids? They're fine so long as you know the parents. Oh, geez, I don't want to scare you. But if you really don't know the parents, yeah, I wouldn't at all. We had no family around or anything, so I was with my kids 24/7 for years. Yeah, I had no breaks at all. And they were good kids because I was a leader, right? So there was no need for a break, really. But yeah, I was very careful with that. You know why? Oh, shoot, should I go into this? Depends on the age. And I've heard of more trouble, because I've been doing this for a long time, coaching people. I've heard of more trouble happening with older siblings than with parents. So think about that. What are the older siblings like? Are they going to be around? If they've got teenagers who are troubled, I wouldn't let my kids sleep over. Okay, 3-year-old learns bad behavior from one parent. How can the other parent counter, separate? Okay, they're just 3 years old. They're not cemented with this yet. But by 3.5 to 4 years old, they're very much under the leader's umbrella. So I was very much the leader. And they kind of were under my umbrella wherever they went. Like they treated me with respect because I respected them. So they tended to treat everyone that way. They lean into the person they are when they're with the leader. Right now, it's harder at 3. It's confusing at 3, but they start to figure it out because they like themselves when they're with the leader. Their self-esteem is high when they're with the leader. They are good problem solvers. They just like themselves more. Doesn't it make sense? You'd lean more towards the person that you are when you like yourself. So yeah, work on your leadership skills, and that will overpower the other parent. They don't know it, but it just will. Your kids are going to be good everywhere. My son was in grade 2, and his teacher called me at her lunch break to tell me this. She said to him, "Why are you so nice?" And he said, "Mommy makes us be nice." Darn rights. So yeah, that was my job. So yeah, work on that. Your leadership skills. Everything's about your leadership. They just are drawn to that leader. They're just drawn to it, that person who's the leader. Think about it. If you have a mentor, someone you really look up to, and that makes you feel good about yourself, keeps you in line, don't you want to please that person? And if you have that leader, like my ex-husband, we were together when the kids were little, But he was very much the pleaser. And we were always on the same page, though. I didn't want him leading the kids. I knew what I was doing. I didn't want him to mess them up. So I said, I'll do all the discipline. I want to do that. So that was my strength, right? Obviously, that's why I teach it. So, but if they acted out with him, do you know what he'd say? He'd say, do you want me to tell mom? That's all he would say. So we were always on the same page. You don't need two leaders. You just need one, but the other one has to be on board. If you're separated, when they get older, they're always going to be, their personality is going to lean more into the way they are with you. So your leadership skills, don't underestimate this. It is powerful, really powerful. Do you have a podcast? No, I don't. I actually just had a meeting the other day about getting that done. It's just a matter of where I put my energy right now. I'm busy. Okay. How do I become a leader? Keep watching me. I've got a course that teaches you how to do it. If you look in the link above, there's a whole course that's 5 weeks, how to get respect. Do not rush through that. Everyone wants week 4. Do not go straight to week 4. Anyone who does, they email me and say, well, that was a disaster. You told me not to, and I did it anyway. And what a disaster. I've been doing this for 17 years. I've paced it out to get you the best results. Week 4, everything starts to change in week 4, but you got to do week 1, 2, 3. But yeah, you know how many people have rushed to week 4? Then they'll email me, then they'll call me or whatever and say, yeah, I did exactly what you said not to do. What a disaster. Yep, absolutely. Is it bad to have both parents? No, you can both be leaders, but you're on the same page. You just know how to get respect. You know how to be fun. You know how to make kids like themselves. And you know how to correct naughty behavior if it happens. It probably won't even happen. My kids weren't naughty. Why would they be? They would be embarrassed. Like I would have said, if I'd acted out around my mom, she would have gone, are you kidding me with this? Oh, I would have been so embarrassed. I looked up to my mom. She was my leader. My dad was the pleaser. And if I asked him something, he would, and if he said to me, if I asked him something my new mom would say no to, he'd say, well, let me go ask your mom. And I go, never mind. Yeah, my kids, it was funny because when they were little, they would definitely push him more. If I wasn't around, they would definitely push him more. But as they got 3, 3.5, 4, they stopped doing that because he would just say, do you want me to tell mom? And then it started working. Anyway, it got to be funny that we sort of played off each other. It worked really well. And he would spoil them when they were out. He'd get them stuff like, I don't like junk food. So, but he would do that. That was his thing. He was the treat master. We used to call him that, the treat master. So he'd take them up for treat. They couldn't wait to get home. Guess what daddy let us eat? Then I'd go, daddy, and they just love seeing dad get in trouble. It was no big deal. It was just part of the act, part of the theater, right? It was fun. They couldn't wait to tell on daddy. If you tell a child not to do something and they throw a tantrum over it, so what does that have to do with you? I always say it's none of your business. That's their process. Don't get in their brains. Don't try and get in their brains when they have a tantrum. That's up to them. The better you get at ignoring a tantrum, you ignore the crazy and reward the calm. As soon as the tantrum's over, you go, oh, you all done? You want to read a book? You do not discuss tantrums before, during, or after, and you completely ignore them while they're happening. The only thing you can do is restrain them if they're getting violent. That's it. Oh, I was trying to scroll using my mouse. Didn't work. Oh, that's funny. Because I need my thumb on the phone. Pandas. Yeah. Every time I hear about that, I have to look it up. It's not obviously something I work with very often. Why do I know that? What is that? Just looking it up. Okay, here's what I work with. I work with parent-child relationships. It really doesn't matter what the kids have. Like that's why I don't specialize in any of that. A lot of my clients have kids with autism. I'm not a specialist with autism, but I'm about parent-child relationships. So it doesn't matter what your kids have. That's not my specialty. Like I don't specialize in that. I specialize in parent-child bonding relationships. That's my thing. So it doesn't matter what the kids have. I used to I used to volunteer in a children's hospital for long-term. They would be institutionalized for the rest of their lives, like as bad as it gets. I won't say the word, but there's a term, there's a slang term for these kids I used to volunteer with. And I worked in the ward that was 4 and under. And, but still, you got to find a way to bond with them. That was always my obsession, was trying to bond with kids, no matter what the challenge is. It's trying to bond with them. And that was my strength. I always found a way. I remember when it was Sunny Hill Hospital here in Vancouver. I did it back in the 80s when I was in my early 20s. And I was 2 years there. The first time I turned up they weren't very nice to the new volunteers because they knew that no one could stomach it. It was hard. And initially, once you get past that, it's okay. You got to see the kid past the disability and all the medical issues. Anyway, so it's not that they weren't nice to us, but they kind of ignored us because they didn't expect us to stick around. I stuck around for 2 years. I went there twice a week for 2 years. And anyway, and I said, how do I bond? Do these kids even know me or know, like, how do you bond with them? And they said, you'll know they like you. It's more of a trust thing. When you pick them up, because they all had shunts in their necks, right, for drainage. So when you pick them up, they will go limp. Otherwise, they tense up because they're trying to protect their necks. They just instinctively know to protect their necks. But if they know you and they like you or whatever, they will go limp when you pick them up. And I remember his name and everything. He was, I think, 4. And the first time I picked him up, that this happened, he went completely limp when I picked him up. And I just started bawling. I was just so emotional over that. So yeah, it's about bonding. I teach how to bond with kids and how to get the best out of them. You're not getting the best out of those kids. It's not like that, but it's still the same thing. It's bonding, right? Connecting and bonding is what I teach. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That was a long answer. Okay. Hi there. How would you approach your children about disabled children, about them being different? Oh, no problem. I just say, ask questions. Ask me questions first. And then, and then I would even suggest, let's go up to the parents and ask them questions, because I know I'm not uncomfortable around people with disabilities because I've worked with so many people with disabilities. So it doesn't, I'm not the least bit uncomfortable. I have no problem going up and saying, look, my kid has some questions here. Is that okay? Do you feel like answering? And they'd say yes or no. No problem. Sometimes you sort of have to judge that too. But yeah, I just, I don't know. But it was funny. I always said to my son, both my kids, but my son in particular, this was hilarious. I said, if you ever see anyone on a bus or anywhere where they need help, always say, can I offer you some assistance? Don't just grab a blind person's arm. And often blind people, by the way, are counting. So if you interrupt to talk to them, they'll often say, well, they'll go like that because they're counting. They know how many steps it is to everything. Anyway, so I taught my kids this. I said, always offer assistance. Just, you never know, right? So anyway, I said to him, by the way, a lot of them will get angry with you. They don't want your help. So I warned him about this. He was on a bus, I think, and he tried to help some old woman with a cane, and she whacked him. She punched him. Oh, he cracked out and goes, last time I ever help anyone. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway. I talked to my kids about everything. And I talked about disabilities. I talked about different skin colors. I mean, when they were little, I talked about everything. And what else? Gay, straight, trans. I talked about religions. And I said, we're not supposed to all be the same. I said, that would be really boring. And I said, what makes the world so fascinating is that there's so many different people in it. So I really raised them to just accept everything, because I think my way's the only way. Like, what I mean is, it's so arrogant to be bigoted or anything, because that just makes you think, it makes you look like you think you're better than someone else. And I taught my kids that when they were little. So I'm proud to say my kids are adults now. They're not the least bit judgmental. And I'm very proud of that. Because if they ever got that attitude with anybody or bullied or did anything mean or anything, oh boy, they would have been in trouble with me. I'll tell you, like, I just don't tolerate any of that crap. Okay. Yeah, I get real passionate about this because I've worked with so many victims of bullies over the years. And I understand the bully. I worked with the bullies too, by the way. Can you make a video on what you're talking about? All my videos are what I'm talking about. But what specifically, Madison? I'll write it down if you tell me what specifically you're talking about. About the accepting other people? Um, just trying to think of something. It was a story. It was something that happened with my kids. Oh no, I can't tell that story because there's a very naughty word in it. But some my kids had one of my kids had a friend who used to use a very derogatory word towards someone, and yeah, we had a big talk about that because my son asked about it. Boy, did we ever have a talk about that. Talking to them about different types of people. Well, because I had friends who were lesbians, and I would talk about them. I would say, "Yeah, they're married," and my kids were like, "Oh, women can marry." I said, "Yeah, anyone can marry." And well, I don't know if it was legal back then, but I think in Vancouver it was. I think they got married anyway. So I was saying, "Yeah, my friends so and so." I'd said their name, and so I said, "Yeah, they got married." So I was always openly talking about everything as if it was completely no big deal. I didn't make it the speech a big deal. I just said, yeah, I said it because I used to keep in touch with them for years when I moved to Australia. And I'd say, oh, got a letter from so and so, and oh, how are they doing? So it was always so, and what they see picks up on stuff. Like they never saw any of that judgment or bias or anything with neither my ex or myself. We treated everyone with respect. So you know what I'm saying? They're watching you. I'll tell you something though. Where I raised my kids, it was lily white, really. There was the token dark kid, and that was unfortunate. But it was just where we lived in Australia. They're more segregated in Australia. I noticed that. There's different neighborhoods for different skin colors. It was just, I was quite shocked at that because I came from Vancouver and we're all smashed into like there's no difference. So anyway, I was quite not overly concerned about that, but I thought I didn't like my kids being raised around this lily white. Anyway, so but my my kids, when we moved back to Canada, it's not like that at all. Like in Vancouver, I guess it's all across Canada. I don't know, but everyone's lives all side by side, no big deal. Well, my son was walking down the street at high school, and just in front of the high school, and he was 15, I think, and this kid yelled out, "Hey, Whitey!" My son thought that was absolutely hilarious, like that he was discriminated against. We thought, anyway, I always remember that. I thought that we just thought that was hilarious. Hey, Whitey. And I said, welcome to the real world, sweetie. It's not all lily white. Not to say that white is bad. I mean, but what I mean is we're all people, right? I say, you know what I say is the only way we'd ever get rid of racism and all that ignorant crap is if aliens invaded Earth. Wouldn't we all come together? Yeah, I just never saw any validity in any of that stuff, and that was ridiculous. Please answer my question. I skip over a lot because if it flips through, I don't tend to go back. It affects my vertigo. So that's why I skip over a lot. Okay. I have a special needs toddler with vision issues only, and it has affected her speech and behavior. Toddlers are all about what they see. They're not about listening as much. Okay, they're more. But then I understand. I mean, I don't know. I'm not vision impaired, but I understand that their other senses get heightened and sort of take over from that. But lots of kids, no, I don't understand the behavior there. I'm interested in what you mean. It affected her speech and behavior. I don't quite understand how it would. And it has affected her speech and behavior. I don't quite know what you mean by that. Be specific. And are you sure it's the vision impairment that has affected the speech and behavior? Because she's only a toddler. So yeah, I'm curious. I haven't heard of that before, affecting their speech and behavior. Like, have you got other kids that you know what I mean? That it's easier to judge things when you've already had experience with other kids. So is she your first? Oh, I don't discuss step parenting. It comes out a lot in coaching, but I teach parenting and I only talk parenting. And then when I'm a biological parent or guardian has to be in the session. Because if I tell step parents or teachers or grandparents how to treat that child. What if the parent didn't like it? The parent is the one in charge. So that's why I don't teach. I teach step parenting when I've got a biological parent with me in the session. And we work through all that blended family stuff. But yeah, I can't give you any advice because I have to talk to the parents. They have to be there. Because she has a stigmatism. Just can't sit to read. Can't to read, but she's gotten better. She's a toddler and she's wouldn't really be reading yet anyway, which I don't quite understand. Um, I think I've got astigmatism. I think I was told, but I don't know what that is. I'm pretty sure I've got one too, but not a bad one, obviously. But I don't know what. I can't remember what it is. You have to put the age. Yeah, if you put the age, I'll be more likely to answer your question. I was a minority in high school as a Caucasian. Yeah. Um, I'm very opinionated on all this stuff. Uh, I just think it's the height of arrogance to think that you're superior just because of your skin color, your religion, as long as you're a good person, you're not harming other people. But yeah, it's just the height of ignorance to think you're better just because of, you know. And also, this is kind of off topic, but I have a lot of personal views about things that I don't tend to share on here. One of them is my son was assessed as gifted when he was, I think, 3, offered a lot scholastically. I turned it all down because I didn't want him thinking that being gifted made him better than anybody else in any way. Plus, I wanted him mainstream. The world isn't gifted, right? I wanted him smashed in with everybody else and learning how to function in the real world because I didn't want him thinking he was better than anyone because of that. Because I always focused on, are you nice? And I used to say to him too, being gifted is nothing to be proud of. You've done nothing to earn that. You were born that way. That's like being proud of being beautiful, like aesthetically beautiful. You didn't do that. Be proud of your accomplishments. Be proud of what you do and what you say. Be proud of your actions. Be proud of how you treat other people. Not you just happen to be born with a really efficient brain. Plus, I feel sorry for him. He's 33 years old. He'll always be the smartest one in the room. I mean, he's surrounded by the rest of us numbskulls. I mean, his brain just works differently, right? So yeah, I never ever wanted him to think he was special because of it, because he didn't do anything to earn that. So that's just a view. Whether or not that, I don't necessarily think that's the right way to do it. I do. Personally, it is. But yeah. I rewarded my kids for their efforts, not for their naturally born talents and stuff like that. It's not that I was putting them down for them, but I didn't lead with that. There you go. I didn't lead with it. Oh, that's a personal one. I'm not going to discuss that. Pumpkin jack. Yeah, I won't discuss that on here. That's too much for TikTok. Well, you got a 2.5-year-old who's not playing nice or sharing with others. 2-year-olds don't know how to share. You can't teach them how to share. They don't get it. Just make sure they've got equal toys, and that's about it. And just be there. You got to supervise that and say no. Every time he goes to grab or take something away, you say no and make sure he can't do it. You have to interrupt that, but they don't get it. Okay. My 3-year-old is repeatedly screaming at me when I try to help, but screams when he wants help. So in other words, he's in charge. So that's all you're saying. He's wiping his feet on you. He's totally in charge. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. I have a whole course on how you set yourself up as a leader for your children. It's up in the link above, in Bratbusters link, how to get respect in 5 weeks, because he's totally in charge. He's wiping his feet on you. You got a 3-year-old who's aggressive at daycare. And he's at that point where at 3 years old, I would put it on the behavior board. Say, if you're mean to other people, I will find out about it. The daycare teachers will tell me. and they'll tell me, and then there will be a consequence. The behavior board is free in my link above there, and it teaches you how to give respect to get it, but also they starts at 3. So at 3 years old, I would put that on the behavior board. My son is 20 months old and the temper is unreal. All day long, he will scream and yell. I don't know what's going on. You'd have to hire me to assess that. I don't know. I don't know if it's normal or if something's upsetting him. With kids, you have to meet their needs and manage their wants. Their wants are where all the discipline comes in. But if you're not meeting their needs, then you can't expect them to, you can't manage their wants. You know what I mean? The needs come first. Food, shelter, sleep, love, fun, exercise. So yeah, I don't know what's going. I have to assess that. You'd have to hire me for that if you want. It's all in the link above there. Okay. I've just been watching your videos and love. I've seen massive change in my 2.5-year-old. Excellent. That's great. Good for you. You've put in the work then, right? You understand it's work. Once you start seeing results though, isn't it worth it? Doesn't it get easier? Like the behavior board is based on, I never used one. That was a teaching tool I developed about 16 years ago. I've been teaching parenting for about 17 years. The first year I didn't have a behavior board because I've never used one. I taught what I did, which is ridiculous. I'm level 10 with what I do. I was teaching level 10, like just dumb. But I mean, you learn how, I knew how to do it. I just didn't know how to teach it. And then about a year in, I invented the behavior board, changed everything because you start at step 1, step 2, step 3. You got to start. You got to learn how to do this. It's a slow progress. But if I go into someone's home and I start working with kids, I do everything in one day. But I'm level 10 with what I teach. So, but you don't. You pick one rule per week. Focus on that. Master that. The next week you pick another rule. That's 2 behavior boards. The third week you pick another one. You got 3. You stop there. You don't go past 3 behavior boards. Then you go into in the moment discipline. I got a whole course on that if you're interested. But it's step by step. I have paced that course out, and it took me a very long time to figure out how to do that. Like to make sure it was going to suit everybody. If you have a 3 to 12-year-old. Anyway, it's paced out. It's all about you, teaching you how to learn how to be a leader. It's not about the kids. It's about you. Because I teach leadership. I don't teach kidding or toddlering or teenagering. I teach parenting. Yeah, a lot easier. Had to do something and make a change. Okay. So you're just following through with what I recommend and it's working. And it does, like you said, it gets easier. Absolutely. It's like anything. Anything gets easier once you get better at it. And plus it snowballs. You'll go like here, I'm level 10, you're level 1, right? The first week is level 1. You'll go like this. This is usually how it goes. You're just staying consistent. Week 1, week 2, week 3. It's quite slow. The kids are all over the place. I don't care about them. I care about you. They will eventually get on board. By week 3, they're starting to see that, oh, maybe you know what you're doing. So they'll start to calm down. So they're like this. By week 3, they calm down a little bit. But if you stay consistent, and you're going to be more like that too, but a little bit more. But here's what happens. After week 3, and especially 4 and 5, you go up like that. It goes really fast. So it starts out slow, the progress, and then it speeds up. Once you start getting results and the kids start understanding, wait a minute, maybe you're actually a leader. It just goes quicker and quicker. Yeah. I don't know what all this stuff means. Sorry, it's when you get gifter badges and all that stuff. I don't know what any of that means. I'm like, what's that? I never have been able to figure any of that out. In Canada, we don't make any money on TikTok, but gifter badges are. I think I've made about $200 in a year and a half on here, and uh, yeah. So I don't quite know how that works. So do you actually put money in, or does TikTok just pay? I don't understand that. I don't think you put money in. I think TikTok just pays. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm not on here to make money. I'm on here to drive you to my website or wherever, and then I make money on there, or you've got my free behavior board. That's how this works. Or I'm just on here every single day doing lives, and this is all free because you guys keep telling me I'm helping you. So I wouldn't turn up if you didn't tell me it was helping. This is all my free stuff. I love doing this. This is my Zen. This is my meditation, my relaxation. My heart rate goes really low when I'm doing these lives because I find them really relaxing. My 9-year-old daughter's talking back so much. Help. What's okay? Well, first of all, I'd want to figure out why. Did she just start doing that? She's a tween. A tween or a preteen is 9 to 12 years old. So she's not really a kid so much anymore, but she's not a teenager yet. A lot of people say she's 9 going on 19. No, she's not. Wait till she's 19, then we'll talk. They're not. I know that what they do is they model older girls. Girls especially do this. They're watching and they model the behavior of older girls, but in a weak moment, they're just little kids still. So yeah, they're not teenagers yet. Anyway, so I don't know has it changed just recently and what style. Your parenting style is not transitioning. If it was working before and now it's not, you're not transitioning. So there is stuff that happens. You got to start negotiating more. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know. Is it all of a sudden, or she's always been cheeky and she's just getting more powerful with it? Because they get more powerful. So often they haven't changed. They're just maturing. They're finding their own leadership skills, and you're not a leader. If you're a leader, that doesn't happen. Like, I didn't get back talk with my kids. Why would I? My son, he was 15, and he says, I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to. If you don't give them anything to push back against, there's nothing to push. There's no rebellion. There's no cheekiness. It just doesn't happen. Why would it? Oh, she's always cheeky. Okay, so she's just getting better at it. That's all that's happening. You might want to hire me right now, or just look at the course I've got. Teaching, because you don't want to be hiring me when she's 16. Lots of people do. I specialize in teenagers. They're my favorite age. But yeah, you'd rather get this sorted out now. I can't explain the whole thing. Like, it's just, you got to start setting yourself up as a leader. Okay. What's the difference between being a leader and being strict or bossy with your kids? Leaders never tell their kids what to do. I don't remember ever really telling my kids what to do. And also, I didn't tend to give advice. They're watching you, and they'll ask if they want it. They'll ask. We work things out together. So yeah, a boss micromanages everything. I didn't do that. I just didn't. I have zero memory of ever telling my kids to do their homework or go to bed. I have no memory of that because they just knew. They were self-disciplining is what I'm saying. So I taught them how to be accountable when they were little, and then they just were self-disciplining. So they understood from a very young age, you got to do what you need to do before you can do what you want to do. Like, my kids never would have asked to watch TV unless they knew their chores were done first. They just wouldn't have. If they had, I would have said, you're watching TV, your bed's not even made, is it? Like, I was just like, what? Oh, sorry, Mom. They just do it. Like, there was no, we had a fun household. There was a lot of laughter. That's what leadership allows you to relax and just have fun with your kids because they're self-disciplining. Not in that they're disciplining themselves, but they know they make good choices. I used to say to my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of it because that's my job. So I knew how to step in and take control if they had ever acted out. They knew I would have, for sure. They knew 100%. Mom would have stepped in, 100%. They would not have even stopped to think. Like, that's just, I was mom before I was anything. But I hardly ever had to do that. We could just relax and have fun. So yeah, the old-fashioned authority was the one-way street. They're in charge, my way or the highway. You're telling your kids what to do. You're micromanaging everything. That's the old-fashioned authority style parenting. I don't do that. And that they tend to rebel in the teen years, but they come out okay on the other end, and they appreciate what their parents did for them. Now, the trendy style is what I call the pleaser parent. I'm sure and I don't look up what anyone else is doing. I just know from what my clients tell me, and I know what they're doing. Like, I know exactly what's trendy right now because all my clients tell me all the time. That is a one-way street too. Kids are in charge. They're wiping their feet all over their parents. Their parents are so busy rolling out the red carpet, trying to make life easy for them, trying to discuss all their big feelings all the time. Like, they're not allowing their kids to process anything on their own. And then also they're trying to get them into the good class. They just rolling out the red carpet because their children are so precious and sensitive. And what you're doing is you're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues that never appreciate you. And throughout the teen years, they don't just rebel, they wipe their feet all over you. It's just ugly. That's I'm exaggerating, of course, but that's the two extremes. The authority was the bossy one. The funny thing is, the pleaser parent style, they're usually yellers because the pleaser parent doesn't work. So Then they resort to yelling. They're trying to discuss all their big feelings. Next thing you know, they're yelling, and like it's just a mess, right? Anyway, yeah, I always tell my kids, like if they said to me, "What should I do?" I would have said, "I don't know. You can figure it out," and then we'd sit and chat about it. See, I always encourage them to think for themselves. Anyway. Oh, you buy points with real money, then give points away to people you like. Oh, really? So you do buy points? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought TikTok just paid. TikTok's making billions and zillions of dollars. I'm surprised that they don't just give it away. I don't know. I know nothing about TikTok or Instagram or anything else. I just don't understand it. It's because I don't look into it. My daughter told me to get on TikTok. She said, "Mom, TikTok's for you. Get on TikTok." Because I have no filtering system. I just say it like it is. And I don't like to plan anything out and be polished. You don't have to be polished on TikTok. You can just come on here and say what you're thinking. Well, okay. This one's kind of tricky because I'm not. Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. I got an appointment soon. How can I get my husband to have more patience with our 2-year-old son? He thinks he knows better. Okay. I can't help you with marriage things if I'm not even talking to both of you. But what I recommend on TikTok is you pick one path. You say, we're going to flip a coin and decide what parenting style to use, and we're both going to be on the same page. It just says I lost connection. Did I come back already? Am I back? Okay, if you're disagreeing on parenting style, what I said was you flip a coin and decide which parent is going to be the leader, or their style is going to be the one you're going to use for 3 weeks. If it works, keep going with it. If it doesn't work, you resort to the other one. So you have to be all in. You say, okay, look, we're not agreeing on parenting. We're going to do what you want for 3 weeks, see how it goes. If it goes well, we'll just keep doing it. Does that make sense? It's a way to work it out. When parents hire me, we don't do that. It's because they've hired me to do it my way. So, but there's often, not always, not usually actually, but often there's one parent like that when they hire me on Zoom, and there's one parent like this, and there's one like this. So I'm like, gee, I wonder which parent wanted to hire me and which one didn't. Like, no big mystery there. So yeah. Oh, says I lost connection again. Sorry about that. Well, my goodness gracious. You're going to hate my answer. How do I get my kid to eat normal food? He only eats sweets. He's 1.5. So, do you want me to answer that? What's he doing getting sweets? He's a baby. You're in charge of that. My kids didn't have junk food. Like, we didn't have it in the house. So, you're in charge of the food. If he only eats sweets, that's because that's all you've been giving him. He's addicted to, salt and sugar are evidently like addictions. So that's why I didn't do that with my kids. They just didn't have that stuff. So, and every time they went to a birthday party as they were getting older, they'd come home with a stomach ache because they had all this processed food and everything. But yeah, it's a baby. Don't give them sweets. It's not really food. All that junk stuff. I keep losing the connection. I don't call that junk packaged stuff food. I call it filler. So think about what you're feeding. I'm a gluten-free health food vegan, so I'm really intense and with all this stuff. So yeah. My daughter is 3, and I always tell her what to do. Should I avoid that? But how will she figure it out? Okay, so you're discussing everything with them. You're telling them, look, the chores here's the chores. You have to do that every day. If you don't, then you'll have to do this instead. So there's always a consequence if they don't follow through. I have rules. You have rules. Life's full of rules. You got to do what you need to do before you do what you want to do. Anyway, I have a course on that, teaches you how to do this and exactly how to do it over a period of 5 weeks. But yeah, because you're always talking to them. You're just not telling them what to do. You're saying, look, we all have chores. If I don't make dinner, we don't eat. If you don't make your bed, then you don't watch TV that night. I always taught them that you're accountable for everything. And it says I keep losing connection. I don't know if I am or not. But I taught my kids that they have a choice over how their life goes. They understood that from a really little age. I used to say, it's your choice how your life goes. It's all up to you. I used to say I have nothing to do with it. It's all up to them. You make good choices, life is good. You make bad choices, life ain't so good. And I used to say, it's my job to make sure it isn't so good if you make bad choices. That's my job. And they were like, I know. Like they never argued or anything. They just understood it because we had a very happy home life. It was very easy. It was fun. It was just easy because they were self-disciplining, and I didn't have to. They made good choices. That's all. They had high self-esteem because when you're a good leader, your kids tend to have a lot of confidence and high self-esteem. So it makes them feel good about themselves. I've never yet seen a kid being, oh, I keep losing the connection. I've never seen a kid acting out. Sorry, I keep losing the connection. I might just have to go. It's happened 3 times now. I don't even know if I'm still on here. Am I still on here? Can someone just do a heart just to let me know if I'm still on? Yeah, I'm having connection problems. Sorry, YouTube, it's TikTok. I'm having connection problems. Yeah, it's locked out. Oh my. Why would that be? Okay, sorry, YouTube, I'll just shut it down. Yeah, I'm locked out. It's not working. It's bothering me. I don't want to just say goodbye. Like, I want to be able to say goodbye. I don't want to just leave, but it's happened before. Once before. I've been doing lives for a year, and it's only happened with, lost connection between dad and Wi-Fi. Okay, I'm just going to get out of it. Let me see here. Sorry, YouTube. I know this is boring for you. Oh. Looks like it should be okay. Yeah, it's dead. It's not working. Okay. Oh, well. Sorry, YouTube. It was just a problem with TikTok for some reason. Anyway, see you later.